Like, are you telling me that the person who is hungry or thirsty, or the person who needs a friend, the person who's lonely, the person who is depressed and needs your help, the person with special needs who needs your guidance, your instruction, whatever it is, that they need to wait until you have self-confidence? Like, that just doesn't seem right to me.
As we close out here, I want to discuss one last myth because I think this is a really tricky one. This is one that slides in unnoticed. I think that many people might not recognize the phrase as much as "you are enough," which is on coffee mugs and bumper stickers and onesies. But this is a message that's everywhere if it's not worded this way every time, but it's important. And the way you dealt with it in the book, of course, was brilliant. And the myth is that you can't love others until you love yourself. Talk a bit about that, and maybe the redefinition of love that one has to do in order to affirm this.
Yes. So this is repeated in, I'll call them quasi-Christian circles. And the thought is that, well, Jesus says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so they see that as you love yourself as a prerequisite to loving your neighbor. But Jesus is actually saying, no, that's a given. You are born loving yourself. And when I say that, there's pushback. And understandably, people are saying, well, I struggle with self-loathing, or I have a friend or a brother or whatever it is who really struggles with self-loathing and self-hatred. And I don't deny that. What I argue is that self-loathing is simply the other side of the self-obsession coin. So on one side, we've got self-love. On the other side, we've got self-loathing. Both are still self-obsessed. Both are still self-centered. Both are still a wrong view of the self. And so we are not to be self-loathing. We're also not supposed to be self-obsessed and self-adoring and self-worshiping. But no matter which side of the coin we might be on, we still are seeking self-preservation. I talk about a quote in the book by Pascal that says that every man seeks his own happiness without exception. I've heard John Piper talk about this. Even those, and I'm not making any clinical statements about depression because I've talked about that before. That's not what I'm talking about here. But for example, when someone unfortunately and tragically dies by suicide, they are still seeking a form of self-preservation. They're still seeking relief from their pain. So everyone is out for their own interest naturally. That is what God, Jesus, the one who created us, is saying, that as you love yourself, you naturally seek to quench your thirst. You naturally seek to satisfy your hunger, to protect yourself from danger, to clothe yourself, to provide for yourself. He is saying, as you so naturally seek to preserve yourself and to love yourself and take care of yourself, love and take care of and seek the well-being of other people. That is a radical kind of love that we can only do through the power of Christ. That's not an affectionate kind of love necessarily. That's not talking about liking your neighbor. C.S. Lewis talks about this in Mere Christianity. When we are to love our neighbor, that's not about liking their personality. And so many times when people say you have to love yourself first, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the kind of superficial, liking your own personality and accepting your flaws kind of love. Well, that's not the kind of love that God is talking about. He's talking about self-sacrificial love for the preservation and the help of other people. Ephesians 5 says, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, talking about the husband and the wife reflecting Christ in the church. No one ever hated his own flesh. So Jesus is not talking about that kind of superficial self-liking, self-adoration that you have to do before you can love other people. He's saying, no, that natural, instinctive, inherent drive that you have to satisfy yourself and to preserve yourself and to pursue your own happiness that you were born with, pursue that on behalf of other people. And once again, how freeing that we don't have to wait around to love other people, until we until we've accepted the cellulite on our thighs. That would take forever. Yeah. There's a million different insecurities that we might have. There are a million different reasons why we might not like ourselves in the moment. If you had to wait around to go out and to serve and love other people, think about all the people who really need our help, who would be waiting around forever. Like, are you telling me that the person who is hungry or thirsty, or the person who needs a friend, the person who's lonely, the person who is depressed and needs your help, the person with special needs who needs your guidance, your instruction, whatever it is, that they need to wait until you have self-confidence? Like, that just doesn't seem right to me. It seems like an argument made from so-called privilege, a word that we hear a lot these days. And it certainly doesn't seem like the mind of Christ when he is giving us the command to love our neighbor as ourselves.
Very good.